Welly, 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 welly. La star. Bienvenue. Willkommen. Dobre den. Watcha. How are you doing? How is it going? How is your lockdown panning out? And here it is, yeah, already. Week 2's gone. Fortnight already. In fact, actually, today is the end of. What's it today? This is the problem, isn't it? Every day's merging into each other. It's Wednesday today, so it's actually. I suppose the 2-week anniversary was Monday night, so it's well past the lockdown, 2-week lockdown date. So yeah, how's it going? It's been another interesting news-busting week. A lot going on, a lot happening, as we all know. As of today, our illustrious Prime Minister, Mr. Johnson, has been in intensive care down in London. Is it? I've forgotten the name of the hospital now. But yeah, down there for 2 nights now. I haven't checked the news right now, so I'm not sure if he's there again tonight. Apparently he's in ICU, but he doesn't need intensive care. It's a precaution, apparently. So he's, I think he's been in. What is that to tell the news? That he's been receiving oxygen, which, I mean, I've had that. You probably had that, or may well have. Being asthmatic all my life, I've had that when I've had chest infections and things, and had to go into hospital when it's kicked off. So it's not a nice thing to obviously to have, because struggling to breathe is not nice. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't wish him ill. I don't wish anybody ill. I don't think that's a good thing to do. But I have to say the meal that the press and the morning news shows and the news night and all that have been making it of it is just, you'd think it was the sort of death of Kennedy again or something. I mean, it's just beyond belief. Yeah, and it's certainly not damaged his pretty damaged approval ratings just before he went in. I mean, I was looking at them on I can't remember which research company it was now, but it obviously has all the approval ratings of each politician, and his had halved, I think, or worse than halved in after the first week. Of course, because of the ongoing problem with all the promises that were made 2 weeks ago by the government and all the ministers, Mr. Hancock, Boris Johnson, all about, at this point we'd be having all the ventilators, still haven't arrived, we'd be having all the tests, thousands of still not, as far as I understand, still not happening at the scale they need to be and were promised. I heard yesterday that the government were coming at 30, unless I've misheard that, ventilators have been delivered as a result of the contracts they'd handed out to McLaren and Dyson and all of that sort of stuff, which is, that's just baffling when you've got companies based here that make ventilators, but of course that doesn't make money for their friends and business partners, does it? That's not money that's not new contracts of money in the pocket, is it? That's not more public money funneled into there. I mean, you've probably seen it all before, like me. Here's a crisis. Here's a chance to funnel some more public money into the pockets of our mates. Private pockets. So I'm afraid that's what's going on there. And the outrage is disgusting. Is people have died. People have died because I'm sure people have died because there aren't the resources for ICU. There aren't the beds. I heard today that just generally that before this all started with New Labour, the sort of the sort of privatisation of the NHS en masse, sort of Thatcherite New Labour sort of thing, and then 10 years of the Tories. Past 10 years, we had over 400,000 beds in the NHS, and as of the beginning of this year, there are apparently just over 100,000, which is the lowest amount of beds out of any of the countries in Europe, which is just shocking. Again, this isn't stuff you're ever going to hear on Newsnight or News at 10 or Peston, or that's why I'm doing this. Is why people like me to do this, because you don't hear that anywhere else. All they want to talk about is a sensational sort of stuff they can, so that you'll buy the papers. And I mean, this morning was when I went for my morning walk this morning, as I do on sort of Monday, Wednesdays and Fridays minimum, and I had to swing by somewhere to get some essentials, and I just caught a glance at the Sun, and it said something. The headline was something like picture of Boris Johnson, clapping number 10, door number 10, the other day, and it said, what was it? He stayed at work for you, now you pray at home for him, or something like that. I mean, stuff totally over the bloody top, but of course it sells, because it's oh my god, if you're not following what's going on, you think, oh my god, what's happening to it, so it's typical media distortion of reality, to be honest. I've been left. I've seen a lot of it before, and a lot of the behaviour before, I think. But I'm being left speechless as the weeks drag on during this. Still no help whatsoever from the Bank of England or Mr. Sunak, is it, our Chancellor, for people on state pensions, or extra help to state pensions, PIP, ESA, universal credit. Oh, there's a 20 quid more a week being bloody wow, full-time students. I mean, I try to, because I've heard nothing, because there is no extra help. And there's no sort of like a fee-paying holiday or anything like that, And I looked at the advice from the Minister for the DWP, was it Penny Mordaunt or something, when she was speaking to the Work and Pensions Select Committee, I think, down in London, and basically their advice was that if you can, sign on to universal credit. If you can't, get on your bike and go find a job in retail, because there's loads and loads of new retail jobs if you can. Well, if you got, I can't sign on. In fact, I tried to see if I could, because there was no news. Because I know they've relaxed the requirement to look for work on universal credit for 3 months, which I think means they've relaxed sanctions if you fail to look for work for 3 months, obviously, which attached to that, which is one of the worst things about universal credit. Purely because obviously people can't go out to look for work, and the amount of people. Since the last video, it was announced that in the previous, I think it was fortnight at the time, last Friday I think this was announced, 1 million people, almost 1 million people, had started new claims for universal credit. So obviously that was almost a week ago now. So that number's going to be greater, and greater still, I think, which is mind-boggling, to be honest. Absolutely, it's absolutely mind-boggling. I can tell you now, the system is not going to take that. And as I know, because I tried again this week, you can fill out the sort of form online and everything like that. But then when it comes to the ID check, we have to prove who you are. When I had to sign on universal credit, when was that? More than a year ago, and just to get them. I tried yesterday or the day before. Even though I've got a valid passport, would not let me. would not let me. I would not verify my ID online. So if I've had that trouble, a lot of people are going to have that trouble. So I think there's going to be a lot of angry people trying to sell onto universal credit as they've been sort of given a little chance but to. Who are going to have their payments delayed, I think, unless they completely ignore that the ID check, which I can't see how they can get around that really. I think as it stands, if you fill out the claim part, your claim starts from that, from when you complete that, but then you can't actually receive a payment until you've successfully proved, your ID, basically, if my memory serves. So there's going to be a lot of unhappy people on that one. So I think that's a news item to come if they bother to report it. What else has happened? I've just been stunned. Even I've been stunned by the complete utter lack of information, help, attempt at helping vast swathes of the population through all of this financially. My mind's boggled actually. What do they think is going to happen? Do they think people are just going to sit at home indefinitely with no money coming in, going, oh well, I'll hope food will turn up at the door. I'll hope my my payments will get made somehow. I mean, my creditors won't want money off me. Of course not. What do they think is going to happen? I think at some point their hands are going to be forced to do something, or else there's going to be big trouble. I don't think you need to be a rocket scientist to understand that one. But for some reason they seem to be still completely blind because they're fixated on this Boris Johnson in hospital stuff. Baffling. Well, of course, on Saturday, as predicted, Keir Starmer, isn't it? Keir Starmer was elected as the new Labour leader, so yes, I have a lot to say about that. I'm not sure I can fit it all in here. I can't see how that's going to work, really. Obviously, I'm slightly prejudiced, but against Mr. Sir Starmer. Excuse me. Not COVID. Just my terrible asthma at the minute. The new leader. I just can't see how that's going to work. I can't. Keir Starmer does not speak the language, does not understand. I don't think wants to understand the traditional working class Labour voters that deserted Labour at the last election. They've no reason to come back whatsoever. He's basically, I think, completed now his shadow cabinet. Sorry, I think forgive my voice, I've got a bit of a cold. Ed Miliband's back in the shadow cabinet, and who else was it? David Lammy, I think, as Shadow Justice Secretary. Lots of other people. I can't remember the names. It's a mix. I mean, Rebecca Long Bailey, she's got a post as well. Lisa Nandy's got a post. I think she's Shadow Foreign Secretary. Whatever. He's tried to sort of put an olive branch out to what's left of the so-called left within Labour, but the problem is none of them understand working class. Which is what the problem was in December, and the run up to December's election, was that ironically, out of all of them, Corbyn was the only one that really understood, and sort of cared about the working class. But of course, he was painted in the press as being the one person, or the last person in the world who cared about the rest of the working class. If you think Keir Starmer and those that were around him at the time and are now in charge have any idea I mean, of course not. No, I mean, I would guess contempt for the working class traditional voters of Labour. I can't see what they're going to offer or say to them that will bring them, us, me, back. And aside from that, the guy's got about as much bleeding charisma as a used toaster. I mean, if you're going to have the Conservative Party and Conservative light, well, maybe not so light, in the Labour Party, as we used to do under Blair, why would people vote? Conservative voters already have a Conservative Party, and Boris Johnson, who, hate him or not, has some sort of charisma, some level of charisma. Well, I don't know, is charisma the right word? But some sort of, some sort of bloody life in him, even with his spouting crap and saying nothing, there's some sort of life in him, against Keir Starmer. I mean, if you're a floating voter, who would you go for? Someone who looks like they're sort of got, give a shit, even if they don't. Keir Starmer, the cold, calculated lawyer, barrister, just, peas on a plate. I'm not trying to be mean to the guy, but who's going to want to buy that? Who? Apart from maybe some disaffected Liberal voters, or disaffected Conservatives with a small c, who don't particularly like Johnson, who were sort of pro-Euro Conservatives, maybe. But yeah, I can't see the working class traditional Labour voter go for him at all. I can't see young people flocking towards Labour with Keir Starmer in their droves either, because they can smell dishonest bollocks just as well as anybody else, if not more so. So yeah, it's battle of the blue suits, or not so much battle. I mean, even already Keir Starmer's angling and wants to work with the government as in a sort of, not a government of national unity, but some sort of coalition sort of cabinet, I think, if he could. And there's a bit of an old adage in politics, and that's where there's agreement, we get stuffed, to put the polite word in. Yeah. So quite a bit's happened in a week. None of it I'd say is particularly good or helpful from my point of view. Maybe yours, I don't know. Obviously, comment down below, let me know what you think. Yeah, just a short message. So yeah, stay safe. I hope you're well and safe. I hope you're managing to stay sane. I've obviously I've had a cold for months actually, about a month and a half long cold, which seems to have got a bit worse, but then it's because I've got a window open and get a bit of a chill at night. Never shut the bloody thing. Which I should do really. So, right, I'm alright. Apart from that, it's bloody annoying. Yeah, stay safe, and that's how it goes now. And certainly in interesting times, uncharted times. Even got to speak to one of my mates I haven't seen for about 4 years over Skype this week, which was nice. So yeah, if you could do that, anyone you've not spoken to for a long time or seen for a long time, if you've got Skype and they got Skype, or Messenger, or is it Snapchat, which I don't really use. I'm sure I'm gonna have to at some point. Yeah, make sure if you can have a chat and get your head out of the space you're having to live in and survive in a minute. Don't be lonely, I think is the main message really, I suppose. Try not to be lonely, because you can be lonely even if you're surrounded by family sometimes and friends. We all have our moments, don't we? So yeah, I know I certainly do. So anyway, I know it wants to be a short one, so that's week 2 over. We're already in week 3, so I will see you next Monday, which will mark the end of the 3rd week, and we'll see what's happened by then. See if the old PM's out, if you've actually got finally got the respirators and the PPE equipment, and I mean now I'm hearing there's might even be a shortage of oxygen bottles or an oxygen supply for hospitals now anyway, even if you have the ventilators. So I don't know if that's true or not, but you know, that wouldn't rule it out the way it's been going at the minute. I also read that it's predicted that the UK will have the worst death toll out of all of the European countries, and when you think, considering we've got the lowest number of beds, and the whole point of this lockdown is to protect the NHS from being overrun because there's just no capacity left in it anymore. I can unfortunately, I tend to believe that one, and just like you, I'm thinking about all the horrible stories I'm hearing about families who can't go to their, or weren't there when their loved ones were dying, unfortunately, and couldn't attend the funerals. And there was one guy today who had to watch his father's funeral on Skype or something, something awful like that. 13-year-old boy, his family couldn't be there, or couldn't be in the same room as him as he was dying. Just awful stuff, terrible. And that's the sort of stuff that I don't mean to read to Mr. Johnson, but that's the sort of stuff I know you and me care about, and all the people who are dying needlessly because we don't have the capacity in the NHS is just I can't imagine what their families are going through. Really can't. So anyway, my thoughts and heart and wishes go out to them, and ended on the down there. But anyway, I'll see you next week. You take care. Ciao for now.